Mid-year review, Formula One noted once again, like previous years, an uptick in female fans. And Formula One is not alone. Various codes of motorsport have not only noticed slight increases in female fandom, but also female participation. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Lights Out. I'm Irene Marie van der Walt. And in today's episode, we take a look back at a discussion I had recently with Chan Havenga, the Namibia Motorsport Federation's Women in Motorsport representative. Then we also take a look at the Dutch Grand Prix and the development of the 2026 Mercedes. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after this. Namibia Motorsport Federation Women in Motorsport Ambassador Chan Havenga joining me. Chan, how are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you today?
I'm great. Fantastic to have you on Lights Out.
Thank you so much.
I've been wanting to have you on here for a long time. It's a very important discussion, especially now at the end of International Women's Month, around women in motorsport. And I think our first question is it possible? I think that's the big one. Mm-hmm. We've seen Gianna Pascal go into More Than Equal. We are seeing South African young karting talent going into F1 Academy, Discover Your Drive, and those kinds of things. But do you think with all those initiatives, those international initiatives, and how young they are, we don't know if we're going to see results. We haven't seen any yet. Do you think it is at all possible for Africa to get onto that train?
Well, if you take Gianna, she's definitely one of our stars, I would say. Yeah. There's the opportunity. They are showing us that it is possible for Africa to do it. So I'm very proud of her to being able to do that. Like we mentioned earlier, she only started in 2021 with her karting championship, but in her first year, she already got the championship. So that's very good. I think definitely there's potential for women in motorsport to go further and potentially to have an F1 driver in the next 10 years that is a woman. That would be amazing. But I would say there's a lot of aspects from Africa that makes it a bit difficult and different from other countries. There's questions we ask like, is it measured correctly? Do we have the opportunities to get there? But also, how do we get there? And what do we do to get there? What do we have to do to be able to get there? The development and everything that they are having there, I think there's definitely the potential for us to do it. It's just a matter of how, where, and when. Yeah.
And what do you think will be our first step to getting into these kinds of programs? Or do you think we just have to give up and establish our own?
No, definitely not give up. We can establish our own, but financially, it's not always easy and not always possible. I would say we can reach out to More Than Equal, even F1 Academy, and ask them how, where, and when. There's always a struggle of getting the feedback from them, but there's always, it's a 50-50 situation. It's just a matter of, do you want to take the chance or not to be able to do that? But I think we already have our foot in the door with Gianna being there already now, so I think that's a big step for us to get more girls going.
And then you as a Women in Motorsport representative, your position, your role in a way exists for a reason. Women need an extra push at present in motorsport. But why do you think it is? What do you think is sort of holding women back at the moment?
I just think it's the matter of how we are being treated. I would not necessarily say discriminated, but it's a man's world. You actually don't think a woman can change a tire on her own, but guess what? They actually can. And some women can actually do it without men not actually being able to do it. So I think it's just a matter of having the confidence to show them that we can and that we also belong. And that is the thing that most women struggle with, is just to take that step and say, you know what, I can do this and I will show them I can. And I think we have a few ladies here in Namibia that showed men like that. I would say like a Stefanie Botha, a Tony Rust. I mean, those girls that started from little up until now. So you just need to be able to show them and want to show them that I belong here.
Yeah, Daniel Chongarero was also recently on Lights Out and mentioned that there was, according to his estimation, about a 70% jump in women's places on podiums across Namibia just in the past year. Why do you think that is all of a sudden?
I would say the girls stepped up. Looking back now at the past weekend's karting event, something I saw, it was amazing. It was, I'm not sure which class it was, but it was Mila Botha and Zunay Verveer. 2 podium finishes for girls. I mean, that's amazing. I got goosebumps when I saw that. Yeah. It's so nice seeing it. So I wish to see it just a little bit more. Yeah. And I mean, there was in the Bambino class, there was little Luna that has been driving for the past 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. She also got a 2nd place on the podium. That's amazing. So if you look 5 years back, you didn't see that. Really, you didn't. There was maybe 1 or 2, but it didn't stick, and now it's amazing to see it.
Yeah, obviously that push has also been around for quite some time. It didn't start at the beginning of last year and immediately we saw results and immediately we saw more women on the podium. For other African nations who are watching, other nations who are watching, who are also pushing for the presence of women in motorsport and on their podiums, how long does that progress take, and what do you need to do to get to that year where it jumps in 70%?
I must say, speaking from experience, you need to have someone that backs you all the way. Physically, mentally, financially, someone that believes in you. And if you have that, you can conquer the world. And I've seen that with the parents with the go-kart kids now. They invest in them. They do everything they need. They go with them every Sunday. They go to practice, maybe during the weeks as well. It's something that you have to stick to it. And yes, there's going to be tears and stuff, but you really need to commit to that. And like I said, your backup. That is the most important thing of it all.
And obviously there are, like we said, more than equal. There is F1 Academy, Discover Your Drive, F1 Academy as a whole, sort of a pipeline into the Formula One system. Also Girls on Track, which has been quite present in Namibia. But with all that considered, do you think that support is enough for female women's motorsport talent in Africa?
I'm not sure. I must say, the Girls on Track program we had here, I expected a bit more initiative from more girls going into karting and so forth. I know I keep coming back to the financial aspect of it, but
it's true.
It is a problem. It is a problem. Not a problem, but it's a struggle that we have. It is a very expensive sport. So I think that is the biggest struggle we have is financially. So like I said, I was a bit disappointed with the outcome of obviously the program was successful. It's just the interest after that wasn't as much as I hoped for. So yes, there is potential. We just need to find a way around everything that we have to deal with as Africa, actually, not only Namibia, to be able to get out there and do it.
Yeah, and may I ask you why you think the outcome was a little bit underwhelming? It was massively successful, I can attest to that as well, but not quite the outcome you were hoping for. What do you think are those factors?
I think, like I said, the biggest one is maybe financially, because there was a lot of girls that really enjoyed it, and you got a lot of feedback, good feedback. So that's the only reason I really thought like, hey, maybe we're getting another 4 or 5 girl karting drivers or so. That was what I was hoping for. But we got a few. It's just not what I expected. So, but hopefully we can get it better. Like I said, this year started with a bang with the women in motorsport. So I'm hoping we could keep it like that.
I'm hoping with you. I'm hoping through International Women's Month. And then, do you feel that there are still, you said women are treated a bit differently in motorsport communities, and that it's a man's world, it's kind of a boys' club in a way. What are those barriers that women are facing in becoming part of the group?
I would say, like on track. you normally treat a lady fairly lighter than a guy. So you wouldn't like go up to her and bump her, you know, like rubbing is racing, that's normal. So they don't necessarily do that, and we need that in order to gain experience. So I would say that, and then the other thing, it's just a matter of seeing a woman up on the podium. It's not always that satisfactory.
It's not taken well.
Yeah, it's really not taken well. For instance, saying a 19-year-old winning a 46-year-old guy with all that experience, they don't take it well. I mean, a man has an ego, and that is it. I mean, that's the thing. But I would say it's going much better. There's more growing and more space for the women in motorsport. Definitely, I've seen here. So, and I'm really appreciating and enjoying that. You know.
And then I want to talk a bit about you. You are a rally girl. You also do a bit of circuit racing, I believe.
Yes.
And now you have to represent women across multiple classes and codes of motorsport. How's that adjustment been for you?
Very interesting. I must say, here and there a bit exhausting, because I'm trying my best. I would like to reach out to each and every woman and girl and lady in Namibia to just check in and hear how you're doing. How can I help you? So like you said, I'm doing the circuit racing this year. Hopefully soon I'll be on the track for the second.
On the podium?
We'll see about that.
Add to that 70% for me, please.
And then actually navigating this year also again in the rally. So and doing the CSC at the karting events. So I'm trying to be a bit all over, trying to get to the MX as well. And so, like I said, I'm going to try and reach out to each and every girl this year, you know, just to check in with them and see where I can help, even if it's just me being there and cheering you on. You know, we sometimes we need that.
Yeah.
You know.
Another interesting thing we spoke about before the camera started rolling was seat fitting.
Yeah.
You know, More Than Equal found that there is likely to be a dietary difference, a fitness difference, a seat fitting difference in how women should be sort of treated and welcomed into motorsport, and how they should train and live to be successful athletes. You find the same thing?
Yes. I definitely do, especially with in Namibia, you're not focusing on your diet or like you do in South Africa or overseas. But I would definitely say we have a lot of more hormones than guys do. So our bodies does this throughout the month, throughout the day even. So we have to get much more and do much more to be able to perform the way they do. Especially with, and then the other thing, the seating, I would say we have curves, you know, and you have to be seated in a proper way when you do racing. You have to be stationed.
Snug,
fitted. Fitted like it. So, for instance, there's seats that's it's made straight. So, some of us has a body that goes like this.
It doesn't go like that.
No, it doesn't. So, it doesn't necessarily help you, but we have to do it like that. So, that's some of the struggles that we do have, and we can't necessarily do something about it now, but maybe in the future. You know.
But that would be another added financial barrier then.
Yes, definitely. Because there's a lot of other things that has to go into the seat to get it the way of the body of the woman.
Okay, and then finally, what do you think have been your biggest challenges in adapting to a new role, in standing sort of as the face of women in motorsport in this country, whether they do a code you've done or not? What have been your challenges?
I would say, for me, getting in touch with everybody, making the time to get to you and ask you, how are you doing today? Making the time for everybody, just checking in, and, you know, like I said, that is my biggest struggle. I want to be there and I can be there. It's just a matter of time. And I would say that's it.
Okay, one last question. I know I said I'd let you go, but just one more question. If you had to create sort of a development initiative for women in Africa, what do you think Africa would do differently from what is being done in Europe and overseas? Do you think there's anything specific that we would look at?
I think we have the Potential, definitely. The potential was the right development, the strategies, the data, everything. We have the potential here to do it, and also the fact that we can do it as a team. I know, like, we have that in us as a team, like we like working as a team together, and I think that would get us far if we had the opportunity to be able to do that. Definitely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me, Shanae.
Thank you for having me
We'll have
today.
a chat again, hopefully soon. We'll see that female Formula 1 driver.
Would love to see that.
Hopefully before the female Formula 1 driver, you'll be back in lines. I'm not shutting you out. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Always. That is Chan Havenga, Namibia Motorsport Federation Women in Motorsport representative. Before we got to the 2026 Dutch Grand Prix, there was a magnitude of research done to prepare the 2026 spec of cars for the track after, of course, the renowned downforce era. Let's have a look at the work that Mercedes did to prepare their car for this year.
Welcome back to the fourth and final episode of The Road to 2026, where today we'll be discussing the most radical overhaul of the chassis regulations in recent times.
These rules have been a few years in the making. They started in the power unit world with a completely different approach, and those changes have quite significant impact on what we now have to cope with in the chassis world.
This fundamental change to the power unit means that we have to completely rewrite what the chassis means. And these two changes happening at the same time is the biggest change that we've seen as a sport in a very long time. So this is quite a big impact on the whole of our business. These chassis are going to be smaller, they're going to be lighter, and as a result, hopefully we will have more agile racing and closer racing, which will hopefully make the sport more exciting to watch.
In Formula 1, there is a rule that says that the cars must not be lighter than a certain amount. That minimum weight has gradually got heavier and heavier and heavier, and the sport is making a very conscious effort to try to reverse that change. The minimum weight limit is reducing by 30 kilos. And in fact, you don't just have to find 30 kilos of savings, you have to go more than that, because you have to have some margin for error and you have to have some ability to then develop the car in the season. So actually you're looking for far more than 30 kilos. For most of the history of this sport, the distance between the front and rear axle was actually not regulated. But for the first time in 2022, they introduced a maximum wheelbase for the first time. And for 2026, they've taken that a step further. So this wheelbase is actually now going to be a full 20 centimeters shorter. That might not sound a lot, but to package the gearbox, the hydraulics, the power unit, all the cooling system, all the pipes, all the everything under that sleek bodywork, that 20 centimeter reduction is a big deal. They're making the cars a lot narrower, reducing the width from left to right of the car by 10 centimeters. There is the hope that this will produce a more attractive racing spectacle, because there will be more space for the cars to get into battle with one another.
So we've got these smaller and lighter cars, which is great for hopefully better on-track racing, but smaller and lighter cars also means that we've reduced the drag.
There is less wing area, there's less surface area under the car. All of that just means less aerodynamic drag. But the rules haven't just done that. They've made it smaller and introduced a new feature, which is the active aerodynamics, the so-called straight line mode.
So this straight line mode will activate on far more straights than we have for the DRS, which means that actually cars will be able to go faster down these straights than they would do, because they are shedding this drag. If you reduce the frontal area, you also reduce the downforce available. So then we go into what's called cornering mode, which is where the straight line mode deactivates. And that means that we have the downforce back in the corner, which holds the cars to the roads.
The sport's introduced this new lexicon of straight line mode, of cornering mode. All the cars that we watch and enjoy, those cars have always been in cornering mode. That just means a normal car. In the last few years, we've had this thing we call DRS, the drag reduction system, which is the wing that which flips up at the back. And we've gifted that only to the car that is trying to overtake. For that car, when it's in DRS mode, that's sort of like this new term straight line mode.
Yeah.
The difference is not only are all cars given this flip up rear wing on all straights, but they're allowed it for pretty much the whole straight. And that brings another change to the sport, because in the current world, when the DRS flips up, the car is going at a fair lick. It already has loads and loads of downforce on it, so it doesn't really notice particularly the loss of downforce that comes when that rear wing flicks up. But if you start much earlier on the straight, which is what these new rules will do to give us less drag for longer and on every straight, then at the point where that wing flips up, the car does not have this huge surfeit of downforce to keep it stable. And so in order to make sure that the car stays balanced, it doesn't just lose a huge chunk of its rear downforce, but still pinned on the front axle, the front wing is also going to reduce. The whole car's downforce reduces, the whole car's drag reduces, but it stays balanced. So the car will feel lighter and a bit less pinned on the road, but it won't feel particularly nervous at one end or the other because it will stay balanced.
So now all of the cars have this straight line mode on the straights, which means that actually, whilst everything is more efficient now, how are we going to go about overtaking if DRS has been taken away?
We don't have DRS, but we do have, for the first time, an official overtake button. The teams have always run different strategies that enable them to lean harder on the electrical side of the car if they've got battery to do so, which will allow the car to give its best efforts of power for a brief period where when you press it, the power unit will give you its best.
And the power unit has much more electricity in 2026 than it has done so far.
Yeah, and so peak power in this power unit is really a thing of some fearsome beauty. When you press that button, if there's juice in the battery, then boy oh boy, you will get a lot of power for the brief period that that juice remains. If there is that juice in the battery and your fellow competitor has maybe used their battery in a less judicious fashion, then you can generate really very large discrepancies in power. The hope is that this differential management of electrical energy with the use of the overtake button will prove a more exciting and less contrived version of overtaking.
And I guess it makes it much more strategic then in terms of how you're deploying all of your energy, because it's not just on the straights when you get DRS and you can overtake. Indeed, you can overtake anywhere you fancy as long as you're prepared and you've got the power that you need.
Yeah, and I would predict that all of the talk is going to be about energy management and about the strategy behind energy management, because the power unit has this very, very high peak power.
Yeah.
When the internal combustion engine is on full song and the battery is juiced and the electrical motor is giving it full beans, there is a lot more power than today's cars. But that does not last forever. The batteries will drain very rapidly, and then the car needs to start charging itself back up again. This happens multiple times per lap, and so managing the way in which you spend that energy, spending it optimally in the right places around the lap so that you don't leave yourself a sitting duck at other parts of the lap, that is going to be the central challenge of going racing in 2026. We always get excited about performance. It's the sort of thing that makes the heart beat faster in our world. And we've talked mostly about that, but in every rule change, there is always a consideration of trying to make the sport safer. And 2026 is no different, with some fairly significant changes to the impact structures.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, a lot of the tests over the years have got more stringent. We included the halos, and we have several tons that go into the side of the chassis as part of the testing before we're allowed to even take them to a racetrack. But that's increasing even further. The nature of the side penetration test is not just brute force now, but actually how the carbon is impacted, which is going to make it safer for all those kind of side collisions, T-bones that we've started to see.
Isaac Hadjar might be out for the count of the Dutch Grand Prix this year after an injury in his wrist sustained during routine training. But luckily for me and you, if we count his replacement, we know 22 other drivers who are not out for the count of the Dutch Grand Prix. Let's have a look at our weekend preview. So for the Dutch Grand Prix, obviously the circuit is Zandvoort. The circuit will be taking a break from the calendar after this year. Thus Max Verstappen's sentimental helmet design, which you can look for this weekend as well. The first Grand Prix held here in 1952 with a circuit length of 4.259 kilometers. This is a shorter iteration. There are 3 other iterations that were quite a bit longer. The number of laps for this weekend's Grand Prix at 72, bringing us to a total race distance of 306.648 kilometers. Lap record set here during qualifying last year by Oscar Piastri. Now moving on to our safety car statistics and our most wins by a driver. For the safety car, you can see there have been 35 Grand Prix at this track with a 60% possibility of a safety car since 1993, meaning 60% of races since 1993 at this track have featured a safety car. Jim Clark, a name that doesn't feature much on the most wins by a driver statistic, the most decorated driver at this track with 4 wins, Jackie Stewart following with 3, and Niki Lauda also equal at 3 wins. Then looking at the most wins by constructor, we have the statistics for you, and as expected, Ferrari. Ferrari are your big winners for most wins by a constructor with 8 wins, Lotus coming in second with 6 wins, McLaren coming in third with 5. Wins by grid position, as you can expect, pole position is your money shot here with 17 wins from pole position at Zandvoort. But if you can't get second, you'd be better off to settle for third with 10 wins coming from the third position. And even our third best position is not the second position. Our third best position, if you can't have first or third, you'd settle for fourth with 2 wins from here. There's only 1 win from second position at Zandvoort. Your pit loss is 23 seconds. Zandvoort also, like most other tracks on the calendar, an undercut track due to the sweeping curves and the effect that has on tires. Also, it being a tight, winding track gives limited overtaking, and then an outlap delta. Getting a good outlap into those tires will certainly give you an advantage over somebody with old tires. And that's what you need to know ahead of this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix. That brings us to the end of this week's episode of Lights Out. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember that you can catch Lights Out at 5:30 every Friday on network television DSTV 285 and GoTV 25, as well as oneup2.com. But until next week, from me, Irene Marie van der Walt, and the Lights Out team, drive it like you stole it.